Termination refers to the ending of U.S. trust responsibility and worship status for Indians, but also meant a denial of treaty rights and independent Indian governments and status. The full citizenship policy had a fundamental flaw. It did not have the support or consent of most Indian communities and peoples. Since the 50s, U.S. presidents started to consult regularly with Indian leadership, but often did not adopt or incorporate Indian voices and ideas into the formulation of the full citizenship policy. Indian leaders and national organizations turned to alternative policy solutions during the early 1960s. The year 2008 is an election year, and we ask the presidential candidates to listen again more closely to the needs and issues of the Indian people. The next president should be held responsible to consult and incorporate the needs and aspirations of Indian communities into a comprehensive Indian policy, for that will help Indian peoples confront the issues of the 21st century.
Aquinas are a major player in casino race. The New Bedford Standard Times, November 23rd, 2007. The Aquina Wampanoag may have a better chance of succeeding at their casino venture than their counterparts from Mashpee. Not only are they free of the disgrace brought upon the Mashpees by former Chairman Glenn Marshall, who resigned after he was caught lying to Congress about his military record, but the Aquinas have formed a powerful partnership with the Seneca of New York and their development corporation. The Mashpees hold land purchased with casino developers' money, but their clout has eroded, whereas the Aquinas have a strong lineup of backers and tribal supporters, but no land. It's easier to buy land than a reputation. Their partner, the Senator Gaming Corporation, would have no trouble buying land. In the 5 years since its founding, the company has built 3 casinos in western New York and employs some 4,300 people, and will soon employ 10,000 once an expansion comes to fruition. As with any casino investment group, its payroll includes lobbyists who will pay many visits to Beacon Hill. So while the Mashpees single-handedly put casinos on the front burner, don't count the Aquinas out of the race to build Massachusetts' first large-scale gambling resort. I'm Jay with Nightwolf.
We're on the area,
Don Walker.
And that has been the voice, the native voice, speaks.
An Apache and Chicana scholar who has opened so many doors. And before our breaking us, we were talking about this interconnection of the Earth's health and women's health. And I think especially after listening to this news report talking about the high incidence of disease among Native peoples, what your comments might be about that, and also going back more to the role of ceremony and helping Native peoples to deal with these kinds of problems.
Well, I think there are 2 things that we need to keep in mind, and one is respect. Respect for ourselves, our families, our community, and beyond that, our nation.
Yes.
And also reverence for the earth and for ourselves, and for our families, and for all of the natural world. And when we begin to think about it in those terms, when we begin to think of ourselves as children of the Creator, we have obligations. One of the things that I always am intrigued with, and that is the stories of how we got here. And I ask myself the question all the time, what happens to us after school? Meaning, either elementary or middle school or high school. So few Native people actually make it that far.
Right.
Because the educational system also needs to be examined carefully. And parents need to watch closely over what teachers are teaching their children. Parental assimilation and religious conversion has provoked many of the Native American and indigenous scholarly community to ask this question: what happened to the wisdom of the elders in the launch of controlling colonial agendas? Hot wires constantly run from my mind to the paradoxes of having to do my work in the academy.
Yes.
As is obvious from this gathering that we had at the American Academy of Religions, our scholarly endeavors reflect thoughtful, carefully crafted attempts to develop research that focuses on the title of Living Relationships, Ancient and Contemporary Indigenous Thought. And for me, of course, the role of women in that is extremely critical. I remind myself constantly that those of us who have succeeded in the grueling Western educational system, which, by the way, is constantly criticized for its inadequacies, it has nevertheless moved us to forge a way to think for ourselves and to create what my sister Tocaya Ina Fernandez represents in her work on Nahuatl Philosophical Foundation for Autonomy and Creativity. And I think that that's really basically what the role of women is whether we're working in a laundry or making tortillas or fry bread or, working with our communities and working with children, trying to teach children the language, that where languages have been, gone into oblivion. There are many reservations today trying to revive native languages. And of course, we have to remember that every time a native language is lost, a theology is lost, meaning a way of life, a religious and sacred way of life is lost.
Could you speak more about what you've seen in the communities of how women are perhaps helping to revitalize language and culture, and what is it about women and women's relationships that make us perhaps in a good position, or maybe even sometimes make it more difficult in order to revive our practices and ways of thinking and ways of life?
Well, I think that women are just sort of naturally nurturers. Of course, not every woman is nurtured, but many women. I think we see the role of nurturing as very important in our lives, and we all seem to be very concerned. I know my own people are very concerned about children and what the children are learning now with, in many cases, casinos have brought into our homes a lot of technology, a lot of games and things that kids get involved with, and everything that they watch on television, of course, they want to have. And so I think mothers are beginning to look at the role of technology in terms of how it is affecting children's learning and how it's affecting their cultural perspective. However, that is not to say that some technology isn't good. I use it myself, and many of our languages are now